This week's episode of the Alpha Nerds podcast is brought to you by Sponch. Sponch on the rocks, the official drink of Belgium.
Welcome to the Alpha Nerds podcast, the podcast rated number 1 by people who don't assign value to numbers. I'm Pete.
I'm Bart, and guess who's broadcasting straight from the Midnight Zone?
Who's?
We are, and you know why we're broadcasting from the Midnight Zone?
Why are we broadcasting from the Midnight Zone?
Because I screwed up the recording and didn't record any of the last hour that we talked.
Yes, we had a full hour-long recording that was just me.
Gosh, it was awesome. Christopher Nolan showed up, and he was talking about all these like deep meanings in his films that started with the letter F, and we can't talk about any of that.
Yeah, I mean, he's already on his helicopter back to Nolan Island.
It's weird that he called it that, but it's fitting. Like, it's one of those, like, there's a deeper meaning in there if I look for it.
I keep telling him, Chris, it's Kansas. You're flying to Kansas. And he keeps saying, like, no, it's Nolan Island. I'm like, well, you're the one good at making shit into other shit, so sure, why not?
He did bombard out that field in order to make it an actual island.
He did. Man, just...
Hi, welcome to the Alpha Nerds podcast, where it's 10:19 at night. Each week we talk about a TV show, movie, comic book, whatever that starts in one letter of the alphabet, and this week is F.
F
for Fix, for Flash,
for Foley, and frankly, my dear, I don't give a fuck!
Alright. So each week we have 5 honorable mentions. These are stuffs that are films, again, that didn't quite make the cut. So, Pete, I'll let you go first this time.
Alright, so first up, I've got Final Fantasy, specifically Final Fantasy VII. That was my first exposure to Final Fantasy. And if I say more F words in this sentence, I think I might die.
You might fade out.
Yeah.
So, Final Fantasy VII, that was the first one where they were like, let's just go all out with, like, the graphics. Let's just push graphics to the level. And they've been doing that with every game since, to where now that's pretty much all a Final Fantasy game is.
I'm actually really happy because PlayStation Network has ported Final Fantasy VII, the original that was originally for the PlayStation 2, to be played on PlayStation 4.
Ooh.
Which is really cool. Like, it's got the exact same look and everything. So... it's just so much nostalgia, so that's really cool. Next up, I've got Futurama, probably one of my favorite shows ever.
From the future!
From the world of tomorrow!
I love that, dude.
Yes.
Okay, this is one you introduced me to it, but it's one of my favorite bits in Futurama now, is Clownitis.
Yes. No, it was Circusitis.
Circusitis.
Yes. I thought that only affected children. Children of all ages!
Oh my feet! And then he takes out the giant clown feet out of him.
Takes his pills and the spring snakes just boing!
So awesome. What's next?
Let's see. Next up is Flash Gordon. Flash! Savior of the universe! Sorry.
Okay, so we talked about last time, best part of that movie, Brian Blessed, the guy who played the King of the Hawkmen.
Yes. Oh my God.
He was Prince something, because they were all like princes in the realm of Ming, and Ming was Emperor of all the galaxy.
Yes. So anybody who hasn't seen Flash Gordon, which I'm very sorry if you haven't, because that's like a life enrichment experience that I can't possibly go into justice describing. But, so... When you imagine the King of the Hawkmen, I want you to imagine, like, the biggest, like, barbarian king that you can think of. I want you to slap some gold-ass wings on him, and it's awesome!
Gordon's alive?
Yes.
Thank you, Brian Blessed. Thank you for that moment.
Yes. Wonderful moment.
Yeah,
so,
made in 1980, soundtrack by Queen. Soundtrack by Queen is really all you need to know, because they did the soundtrack for that, and they did the soundtrack for Highlander, and both those movies are fantastic.
Yeah, so clearly we see that the key to making an awesome fantasy sci-fi movie getting Queen to make the soundtrack.
Yeah.
All right. Next up for me is Full Metal Alchemist. That was one of the first animes I'd ever been exposed to, besides like Pokemon when I was like 10. Yeah. But it was probably my first serious anime, and actually, funny story, I discovered it completely by accident because I was getting ready to watch Futurama. Actually related to Futurama. I was getting ready to watch Futurama on Adult Swim on Cartoon Network, and this was, back before Netflix, those dark days, and so I was unaware of a schedule change for Adult Swim. The part where I was supposed to be laughing my ass off at like a drunken robot, I'm now watching this kid toddle around with a giant robot, and he can clap his hands and turn stuff into other stuff. I was like, what the shit is this?
So my first interaction with that, which is a fantastic show. Well, the original is Brotherhood, not so much.
Yeah.
My first touching base with it was in a video game magazine. Remember Tips and Tricks magazine? Did you ever read that one?
Oh my goodness, yes.
It was like half a video game magazine, half of just like a code book.
Yeah.
So, but they had like preview for like upcoming games. One of them was a Full Metal Alchemist game, and I like read the description. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool, and then completely forgot about it. And then my brother comes in. He's like, so there's this dude, and his brother's like in this suit of armor, but it's just like he's not actually in it. I'm like, I know this. I know all this. And he's like, because I was like, oh, he's in the suit of armor because they tried to bring back their mom. He's like, no, it's because they like treading God's domain, which is what they actually say in the show.
Yeah,
and we argue about it, and I'm like, no, dude, this is the same one. And like dug through and found the magazine. Was like, look, same thing.
So, wonderful show that takes place in like an alternate dimension of Earth, and they actually take alternate dimensions into account via this like Deus Ex Machina gate sort of thing that just connects the two worlds, and it's really, really awesome, really well written. Like every episode is pretty much crucial, and so much happens in every episode. Like even the episodes that you can almost consider filler because they might be a little more lighthearted, actually have like a lot of poignancy to them. So, it's really well done, and it all ends up getting wrapped up in a nice little package, wrapped up with a bow and everything. It's awesome. It ends with the ending movie, The Conqueror of Shambhala, where, it's sort of a prelude to World War II in Nazi Germany. It's just fun.
Yeah, and actually, so the gates in that movie were inspired by an actual like statue called The Gates of what by Rodin, the same dude who did the speaker.
Oh, nice.
Or not the speaker, the thinker.
Oh, right, yeah.
Thinker. But it took him 37 years to finish that.
Huh.
Yeah, but all the people like in pain and like along the sides of it were all based on that statue.
Huh. Nice.
Yeah, it's really cool. And what else you got?
Lastly, I have The Flash. Now, I'm not talking about like the C.W. Barry Allen Flash. I'm talking about Wally West Flash. The Flash that I grew up with and that made me laugh every time he was on the screen, because he was amazing and he just pissed off every other Justice Leaguer because he could.
Do you know who played his voice?
Who played his voice?
Michael Rosenbaum, same dude who did Lex Luthor in Smallville.
Oh, very cool.
That dude's awesome. If you've never seen Sorority Girls, it's a stupid movie, but he's great. It's weird because you see him with hair and you're like, I don't think you're allowed to have hair.
That is great. There's one bit in Justice League Unlimited where it involves Flash and Lex Luthor, and like there's this accident that happens where Lex Luthor and the Flash switch minds. So now the Flash is in Lex Luthor's body and Lex Luthor is in the Flash's body. And so he's up there in the watchtower in outer space, and he goes into like the bathroom of like the Justice League headquarters, and he looks at himself in the mirror and it's like, well, at least I can finally find out who's behind this mask. And he pulls the mask off, looks at him, and it's just Wally West's face. Looks at it right in the mirror and goes, I have no idea who this is.
And to bring it back to Highlander, Lex Luthor was played by Clancy Brown, who played the Kurgan in Highlander.
Very awesome. Two famous bald bad guys.
Oh, I love the Kurgan. I like the Kurgan with, like, hair, though.
Yeah.
Anyways, enough about Highlander. We'll get to that.
So what are your 5 honorable mentions, Bart?
So my first up, top 5 answers on the board. Number 1, top game show that starts with an F.
Is it Family Feud?
Show me Family Feud!
Bing!
Number 1 answer. I don't know the other 5, or other 4. But yeah, Family Feud. I love Family Feud. It's just, I love game shows in and of themselves. I grew up when, like, Game Show Network was, like, brand new. So I watched that thing for hours. And my parents constantly watch Jeopardy. So if you've never, like, I will watch Jeopardy and just, like, ding, 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 and just answer the questions up until they say, like, give me the one for 500. Then I'm like, well, I don't know who died in 1894 in Western Shanghai. Go for it. Oh, hold on. I have to let out a dog.
Doo-doo. 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 It's the hold music. Doo-doo. 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 Hold music.
Don't cut any of this out. Hold on. I have to go kill the dog.
Remix. Hold music. Hold music. Hold music. Hold music.
I mean, you think recording this at midnight, I'd actually have some peace, but no.
Never.
So, Family Feud. I absolutely love game shows. Like, I'm addicted to them. But I don't really have time to talk about that. Next up is Fallout.
Yes, Fallout.
So I've never actually played a Fallout game. One of my favorite things about Fallout is the New California Republic flag, where it's like the bear with 2 heads.
Nice.
And another thing about me, I love my novelty California flags. So much that for Christmas one year, Pete got me a giant Galactic Republic California flag with the AT-AT's the bear and the Death Star is the star on the flag.
Yes, I'm proud. That's one of those gifts. Like yes, this is gonna be a good gift.
Oh, it's so much fun. Next up on my list is Fury, which is a game that came out a few years ago. It's Fury with an I, not Fury with a Y.
Fury with
Sometimes
an I.
Put a little heart. Sometimes put a little heart over the I.
Something to brighten the reader's day.
But it's a really fun little indie game. It's really frustrating though. Like it's very hard, very frustrating, and it switches between about half the game is you're at a distance with these like boss characters, and it's like a shoot 'em up. You have to dodge projectiles in order to get yours in where you can.
Yeah.
The other half of this game is this like imagine Dark Souls, except you can only get like 15 feet back from the guy. So it's a lot of dodging at the right time and parrying and attacking and like all that. And one thing I hated about that game was that when you're in that ring and you're like close up and you're supposed to be using your sword, they just take away the gun.
Yeah.
Like the button just doesn't work. Like they don't like electrify it where if you grab it, it like shocks you. They just don't let you use the button.
Bummer.
BS.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's one in a long line of games that tries to equate quality of the game to how long it takes to beat the game, and they try and stretch that out by making it almost unfairly difficult.
Yeah, which is what they did back in the day. It's weird. It's like difficulty in games is like a bell curve. Like they started out super hard, and then it like went down with like the code era, like when everything had codes, like you just pop in invisibility and be fine.
Yeah.
And then multiplayer came back and that decreased, and now stuff like Dark Souls is getting popular again, so it's coming back up.
Yeah, it might just be following pattern, but either way, that's not exactly. It doesn't really. I'm not their demographic, obviously, but
No.
Some people really dig it. Some people really like the whole, trying and failing a whole bunch of times and then getting that awesome sense of satisfaction when they finally, kill this one enemy. Meanwhile, I'm just like, I don't want to spend $60 to find a new way to hate myself.
Right. Just one of those, I thought I was good at games, and I'm not.
Exactly. So, yeah.
Next on my list, Friedman Fries.
Oh.
German board game designer. He runs a company called 2F Games, and he makes games like Fearsome Floors, and Friday, and Power Grid, which has an F name in German, just trust me. But that's their gimmick, and like people really like his games. Like he's one of the most successful ones. If you ever see a picture of the guy, he's like, remember the composer from Fifth Element?
Yes.
Dude with like the tall like blonde hair, kind of looks like that. Like I actually want to meet the guy in real life just so I can be like, whoop, whoop, on his head. And my last one is the amazing film by Kubrick, Full Metal Jacket.
Ah, love that one.
So good.
So good. So, a lot of people think that the basic movie of Full Metal Jacket ends after boot camp. Would you agree, or?
So that movie is really two movies in one, which I actually wish they'd do more of, because I like that sort of like vignette where you're telling like little stories, because some stories just shouldn't be stretched out. If the first half of that movie was just if it was a boot camp scene for like an hour and a half, it would get boring.
Yeah.
Like you get used to, like when you actually go to boot camp, you get used to getting yelled at. It just kind of glades over you.
Yeah, pretty much.
So it was necessary for that first scene to be shorter, and they wanted to show like the horrors of war part, because that's what you do. And gosh, it's brutal. Like I will say that the second half starts off slow, which isn't a token in its favor, but when it gets going, it gets good.
Nice. So yeah, honestly, wish a lot more movies would know that sometimes a shorter movie is better, instead of being like, oh hey, we're gonna do this entire book series, and in the last book we're gonna split into 2 movies. Fuck however long it is.
So along with that same thing, when like shows will do like season 4 part 1, season 4 part 2.
Oh my god, I fucking
like,
hate that.
When they're actually like full length seasons, it should just be 4 and 5. They do that because they don't have to renegotiate contracts if they do that.
Oh, those evil cunts.
Alright. Except for South Park. South Park just like sets their own limits and says we're gonna make 5 episodes now, and then take a break.
Pretty much, yeah.
No, it's 10 in a row.
Yeah, now it's just like their seasons are 10 episodes long, and they just go 1 week after another, so we get 2.5 months of South Park every year.
Nice. Yeah, and that's it for my honorable mentions. Pete, you want to kick us off this time?
I could, but I think it's your turn this time.
Fine. So, my F topic for this week, because I actually want to do a video game, because because even though I mentioned Fallout, I actually haven't played a full Fallout game. And I wanted to do an F video game. And one of the games that I really liked when I was a teenager was a game called Feel the Magic.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, the full title is Feel the Magic XXXY, and it's a game all about finding love and all these things. So, alright, so it's a game all about it's a game that's developed by Sega. It's actually developed by Sonic Team themselves, which is kind of weird, because this is, well, I mean, I guess it makes sense, because it's 2004. This is after the Dreamcast era, where you had Sonic Adventure 1, Sonic Adventure 2. This is after the early Xbox days, where they knocked out stuff like Jet Set Radio Future, which is a fantastic game.
Love that game.
But, actually, they didn't do Jet Set Radio Future, because that wasn't Sonic Team. That was Sega. But they did fantastic work on this game, even though it's just a little DS game. So it came out in 2004, and the DS was released in America in 2004. It was actually released here before Japan, which is weird, and I'm not sure why. Yeah, but it was. So it was basically like all like first rounds of console era. It's all tech demos.
Huh.
So it's a little collection of mini games, and they're all like tech demos for what the DS can do. So the DS introduced 2 main things to gaming at the time: touchscreens, and like as a precursor to like the huge iPhone era stuff, and a microphone, again, that you can use in iPhone games. Kind of weird that. Wonder why.
A little bit, yeah.
I never thought about that. Anyways, so there's a lot of stuff that interacts with the microphone. So the music was done by a guy named Naofumi Hataya. He did the music for Sonic CD. He did the music for Golden Axe 2 and 3. Did the music for Ristar. He's been He's been one of those dudes who's just in the back pocket of Sega, just constantly putting out good work.
Right on.
I think every company needs a dude like that, like who they can always just lean on and be like, "Hey man, we need one of these." And it's like, okay.
Cool.
First time I saw the game was when I was in high school. So, a guy I knew at the time called Corey. You remember Corey, redheaded kid?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember him.
Like I wasn't. Like I wasn't a kid back
Yeah,
then.
well, yeah. But, yeah, I remember Corey.
So he's like, okay, dude, this is like the trippiest game in the world. Like, you're on drugs or something, you meet this woman, you start fighting this like spiky haired dude and jumping out of planes, and there's these dude called rabbits that are like going after you, and I'm like, whoa, slow down there. Because I think we all have the guy who like tells fish stories in our lives, the guy who just exaggerates a bit too much.
I remember, you remember Patrick? Kind of had a little bit of a habit of hyping games up like a lot, so.
Oh, he was Mr. Game of the Year of the week.
A little bit, yeah.
Like,
Patrick, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry, but come on, like, you have to admit it's true.
But, so he would, like, exaggerate. Like, and I, like, took it, like, with a grain of salt, like, yeah. And so we played around with it a little, and the game's weird. The game's, like, very Japanese. But it's good. It's just, I mean, it's just a good game. So, this is the Nintendo DS. So it's that mid-range of full polygon graphics, and because when they were sharing like polygons and sprites.
Yeah.
So think of like something like Ape Escape. So your character is fully rendered 3D. The world's fully rendered 3D. The enemies are fully rendered 3D, but the bush is like always facing you.
Yeah.
Or like Mario 64, where you'd be flying over a tree, and if you look down at the tree would be like flat against the ground.
Yeah, I remember that.
Because they never actually expected you to like look at the tree from that angle.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of that. It was that early polygonal stage, and they were just showing off what this machine's capable of. It's actually really capable. Like Mario 64 on that game, or on that system, looks amazing. It looks better than the original.
Right on.
And it's a tech demo game. Another good example of that is Frobisher Says, which was a game I had for the Vita.
Love that game.
Okay, so you had a Vita?
I didn't have a Vita, but I remember you and your wife showing me that game.
Yeah, it's just, it's really good.
Frobisher Says.
Yeah, it was made by like Sony UK, and it was just a big tech demo. So you had to use the touchpad, you had to like tilt it, you had to like yell at it, you had to like hold down a button or like use the joysticks.
You had to tilt it one way or another. You had to like use the rear facing touchpad.
I hope that system gets a lot of love like later on in life, because it was such a pretty system. It was so capable.
It was really capable, but I don't know, it just never seemed to really take off. Like I feel like it just suffered from having expectations too high.
Yeah, darn shame.
Really is. But
anyway, so
yeah, unfortunately, it suffered the same fate as the PSP.
Yeah. Well, the PSP didn't do well, but I think the PSP did better than the Vita.
Well, yeah, but I think that's because the PSP was like wholly unique. Like PlayStation had never released a handheld before, so everybody's like, "Holy shit!" And this is when like they would sell memory cards. I remember the biggest one being 4 gigabytes, and this is back when it was like 4 gigabytes, hot dog.
Man, I'm never gonna run out of that space.
Right? Oh my god! I remember the chip being red to show you just how badass it was. Oh my god!
That reminds me, for this computer that I'm recording on, I need to get a 4 terabyte drive for it, because I'm out of space in my 2 terabyte drive.
Oh my god!
Dude, I need to like suit this thing up. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about Field of Magic.
Yes.
So how the game works is all the characters are in silhouettes, probably to help like lower what they had to output for like texture mapping. And you're this guy who passes a woman in the street, and you fall like it's one of those instant fall in love things. And so you because you're going after, there's this like bigger guy with like a spiky like punk haircut who like snatches her up and runs away with her. And you partner with this performance group called the Rub Rabbits, who are all like humans. They're all like guys, but they have like rabbit ears on, who are like chasing you around, like trying to get trying to help you get your girlfriend back.
Yeah.
And the reason they did that was because one of the selling points of the Nintendo DS was that you could rub, and one of the creators of the game thought the word love sounded enough like rub, so he like was like love rub. Yeah, feel the magic.
Oh my god, it's so terrible.
Which, the game, like, when you first started up, it does look like a trip, because it's all these, like, you're in like text land where words are floating by and like all these different fonts and everything's like bright and orange and white, and then you like zoom in on like the title of the game and there's a woman wearing a bikini in the background, all that stuff.
Nice.
So, and it's a beautiful game. It's like bright, vibrant oranges and pinks and purples, and it's a beautiful game. Like visually, just awesome.
Awesome.
And it's a bunch of mini games. So one-on-ones is like there's like giant ants, and there's people who are like sinking into the quicksand, and you have to like rub to like get the people away from it. Or there'll be candles, and they're slowly moving towards you, and you have to blow on the screen to like get the candles to like puff out.
I remember that. Yeah, the DS was good at using the microphone in different ways like that.
Yeah, like DS had a good library of just like kind of quirky games like this, because it was cheap to make a game for DS. Like, it was cheap to make a game for the Wii. That's why they got a lot of shovelware. That's why they got a lot of good, interesting games.
Right.
One of my favorite games on the DS is actually The Blob.
Oh, I love that game. It's basically reverse Super Mario Sunshine.
Yeah, but the DS game isn't that. So the actual the console game is produced by a Sci-Fi Channel and like is like a French game. The console game was you had to like clean up the stuff from the wall, and I think they released it on Wii, and then they added like PlayStation Move controls to it.
Huh.
I didn't really dig the console game because I tried it after I played the DS game. The DS game was just this really good, awesome platformer. But what they would do was, if you if you got into a puddle of like brown goop, you would turn brown, and the music would change.
Oh, nice.
So if you turn blue, it'd be like bluesy. If you turn like red, it would be like more like a rocker track. And then every time you landed on a platform, it would color that platform or like that section of the level, like that little corner of the stage, like red or blue or green or whatever.
Oh, very cool.
And then we looked it up later because I saw it at a game store when I was hanging out with you, and I was like, oh man, I have to get this game, it's so good.
Nice.
I got it because it was like $8, so I like got it and stuck it in my pocket, and then I was looking up more stuff about it. That game was developed by Half Brick, the guys who went on to make Fruit Ninja, and oh gosh, what's the shooting one? Like, they've been just so successful just off Fruit Ninja.
Awesome.
They're Melbourne-based developers, so yeah, Australia. But Feel the Magic's as much as I like keep going off tangent, it's a really good, solid game, and it's a nice little tech demo for the DS. So, one of the last things in the game is like a giant robot fight, where how it works is you have to like they'll shoot a missile at you and it'll split into like a row of missiles, and you have to draw on the row to kill him. And then he'll open up his chest plate, and you have to draw the like lit up design on the chest plate to like shoot out that section.
Wow.
It's a really good game. Like, it's fantastic. And one of the weirdest parts is anytime that there's like a break in the game, like, because there's little mini games, after 3 mini games you get a break, and the music goes la 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 break time. It's just like that, and it'll be like the girl that you're after doing something, finding a kitten, like messing with a rubber duck, something.
Weird.
Yeah, it's very strange. But it's a nice little game, and the music is all like do 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 do, and when the game starts, it's like rabbits. Do 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 do.
That's awesome.
I dig it. Well, it was just it's one of those. It's not deep. It doesn't have an amazing story, but it's a cute and absolutely beautiful game, and I loved it. Feel the magic.
Right on.
What do you got for us this week, Pete?
This week I got Fables by Bill Willingham.
Speaking of which, can you hear me cough?
I can.
I'm sorry.
Are you dying?
Go.
Okay, so back in 2002, Bill Willingham published his first book of Fables, which was entitled Legends in Exile. So he published through Vertigo, the publication company that's also famous for things like Sandman. And honestly, this graphic novel series is right up there with Sandman, with just regarding the story, cast of characters, and just the artwork, amazing. Anyway, so the basic story of Fables is that all the stories, all the things that we remember learning about, like in childhood, like all those, Mother Goose rhymes and things like that, Jack and the Beanstalk, Snow White, Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, etc. Princess, etc., right?
Yeah.
Obviously. Who doesn't? So, basically, all of these story characters are in a magical sort of hotel in New York City called Fabletown. Now, they're living here because they were basically displaced from their own homes by this mysterious evil force, only known as the Adversary. Not exactly a creative name to call a big bad, but, if you want to keep it mysterious, sure, go, why not?
Fun fact, Satan's name for the Bible is Hebrew for adversary.
Yes.
Yeah, because he was supposed to be the one who, when you were being judged by God, would actually speak against you.
Yes. And
so it was
the Hebrew word for the adversary is Satan, which we just call Satan, which, that's just kind of like a neat little trivia thing. Anyway.
Biblical facts, good.
So, the characters that you would see in Fabletown are, all the most iconic ones that we remember. So, first off, one of the primary characters is Snow White, and she is working as the assistant/secretary of the mayor of Fabletown, Old King Cole. He was a merry old soul, and then...
Merry old soul, was he?
Yes. So, it actually shows a really interesting dynamic of the politics in Fabletown, because King Cole is just kind of this jolly old, glad-handing, sort of like, good...
Inept.
Yeah, he's inept. Like, his whole thing is just like, if I give everybody what they want, then everybody will like me. And then Snow White is waiting outside of his office to basically lay down some hard truths of everybody who comes out of King Cole's office being all like, oh boy, we're getting everything we want, and everything's gonna be taken care of, hot dog. And then she basically, sits there like, hang on, because I got some really bad news for you. None of what you're thinking you're getting is what you're getting. And here's why. We don't have infinite money. And that's basically what happened, what she has to do over and over again, just like being the bad guy, laying down these hard truths. And, she's got to be the kind of like the actual power behind the crown.
Right.
So, aside from Snow White, we've got Big B Wolf, also, who is also the Big Bad Wolf. So, Big B.
Waka waka.
So, he is like the security/police force/detective agency of Fabletown.
Right.
And he's got this sort of Wolverine look to him, like, he's sort of grizzled, he's got sideburns, but he's also got 5 o'clock shadow. He
has massive amounts of arm hair.
And he's always, like, squinting.
Yes.
Like, there's always too much light in the room for him. So, aside from that, we've got Rose Red, which is Snow White's sister, and basically...
Who I'd never heard of before this comic, ever.
Yeah, there are slight references in some, like, really obscure books that mention something like that, but I think more or less she was just completely made up for this series. Anyway,
yeah.
So we've also got Jack Horner, who is the Jack in every Jack fairy tale. So he's Jack from Jack and the Beanstalk. He's he's Jack Be Nimble, Jack Be Quick. He's Jack Sprat. Jack from Jack and Jill.
Was he the Jack that stole the tarts?
Probably.
Yeah.
In this series, you see him. He's sort of the petty criminal of Fabletown. Like, he just like steals shit. He basically just does whatever he wants, and fuck the consequences. And Bigby Wolf always has to bring him in, and like, oh, you're gonna be under house arrest and blah blah blah. So he's like he's like everybody's mischievous little brother.
Yeah, everybody's favorite idiot. And he was actually in a side project, Jack of Fables, which is another, like, offshoot of Fables.
Yes. So, yeah, he got his own spin-off. And they actually referenced that in one of the Fables books where, he walks off the page and he's like, I'm leaving, I'm taking my favorite artist with me!
Oh, nice. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was pretty great.
Okay, so that, like, Jack of Fables has one of the worst panels in comics.
And what's that?
It's the one where Death's going to, like, get him. So the full-out, like, Reaper skull scythe is going to get him, and it's, like, in the room, and it's the shot of the Reaper's head, and then behind him is Jack saying, "Ha! Got you now! Snickety-snack, get in my sack!" And it's one of those, what the frick is going on in this?
Yeah, I remember that.
Some panels taken out of, like, context in comics are good, some are awful. That one's just... Oh.
Yeah. So, interesting sort of metaphysics sort of thing in Fables is since the characters in Fables are also tied to our world in the way that we have them in stories, they kind of actually are quasi-immortal in a way. Like,
yeah.
So, you have, like, the lesser-known Fables, and if something happens to them, like if somebody shoots them, or they get hit by a car or something like that, if they get mortally wounded in any way, that's probably it for them. But if it's a super popular character, if it's like Disney princess status, then they'll probably be able to shake off whatever hits them. There's a couple instances where, the belief in that character is what saves them.
Kind of like the gods in American Gods.
A little bit, yeah. The more well-known the character, the better they'll fare. So...
Or like one of the weirdest endings to a season of Doctor Who I've ever seen.
Yeah. Anyway.
Continue with the Dobby Doctor.
Yes. So...
He was so small.
So the characters started off in their own homelands, simply called the Homelands, and they were sort of pushed out by this encroaching evil and this army of the so-called adversary, and so they basically had to flee for their lives, and they came upon a portal to a different world, which was our world. So here they are in New York, completely displaced, and basically they had to pull together all their resources, which didn't amount to much, but they managed to construct and magically imbue a hotel in New York City, a hotel which, even though it looks small and normal on the outside, on the inside is much larger, much more grandiose, and allows for everyone who was displaced in the homelands to live. So you have like all these different floors of this hotel, and each floor kind of, sort of situates a certain genre of Fables, or a certain universe of Fables. So you have like the Cinderella floor, or you have the Sleeping Beauty floor, and things like that.
Huh.
And
that's kind of neat.
Yeah, so other characters, or one of the floors in this hotel is the 13th floor. That's where the magical fables are. So that's where we have Ozma from Oz. It's where we have Frau Totenkinder, which is she's the witch from the Hansel and Gretel story, and Frau Totenkinder, German for Miss Dead Kids.
Oh.
Yeah. Pretty succinct.
Like, this comic seems to bounce a lot between, like, dark and then, like, kind of just, like, weird, like, whimsical.
Yeah, this comic book really sings to people who have like a little bit of a twisted sense of humor, sort of that dark humor.
Yeah.
So there's also other magical witch types on the 13th floor, but you know they're a little less featured. I believe there's Baba Yaga is not really among them because she's like kind of unabashedly evil. Like she will not, under whatever circumstances there are, go along with like the new laws of Fabletown. She's like, oh, fuck that, I'm gonna stay out here where, you know, I might die from the adversary, but at least I'll be able to do all the shit I want, which is basically eating children.
So when you say I can't eat children, yeah, you just can't. Like, you're not allowed to. But like, define children. If I took one that was 11, no, 12, no, 13, no, okay, now you're just being unreasonable.
It's like, so human children? Yes, human children. What about mermaid children? You can't have them either.
Can I eat kittens? No. I didn't know kittens anyways. I was just seeing if you could.
So,
okay.
So there's a bunch of other stuff too, but what's really fun is how they go about introducing all of the characters, and they do that by having a murder mystery in the first volume. Now, this is a great way to do that because, like, of course you have to interview a whole bunch of people, so it gives you like a nice look at a bunch of different characters without having to be like super exposition-y.
Without being like, oh, hey Tom, I didn't know you've been back. You've been out of town for 6 years. Yes, I came to give you back the thing I borrowed, because I am your good friend. Thanks, Tom, my good friend. You're welcome. And then he leaves.
Pretty much, yeah.
Doing that just seems a tad strange.
Yeah, tad strange. The first book starts off with somebody notices that, like, hey, I haven't seen Rose Red in a while. What, is everything okay? And then they go up to her apartment, and, oh, it's not okay, because there's fucking blood everywhere. So they're like, oh, okay, this does not look like your average period. So we should probably call Bigby and see what he thinks. And so they do, and, you know, at first they're like, I can't tell if there's enough blood on the floor to think that she might actually be dead. So, first thing they do is they find an apartment, an empty apartment, that is basically the exact same dimensions, and they design it the exact same way as Rose Red's apartment. And then, Bigby Wolf gets a bunch of blood packs from, like, a blood bank, and he says, okay, I want you to try and recreate the blood stains as close as you can, and tell me how much blood you used. Which seems like a really weird way to go about it, but okay, whatever.
Right.
So, they're interviewing people, trying to figure out exactly what happened, and then, you know, he gets a call like, yeah, it took 10 blood packs, so 10 pints. She's dead. And so they're like, oh, fuck. So now it's, you know, not just a missing persons case, it's a homicide. And, you know, stakes are getting higher. So they interview Bluebeard, probably one of the more unstable residents of Fabletown. And, you know, he's a pirate known for killing his wives on their wedding night. Because
that was his thing.
That was just his thing. I guess he just doesn't want to have sex with the same woman twice. It's just, okay.
With this ring, I do the wet. Okay, so I have this thing. Like right at the ceremony.
So hear me out.
Talk about it later. We're going to talk about this later. I mean, I'll do most of the talking.
You'll do a lot of gurgling.
You'll be making noises. Yeah. Anyways.
Anyway. So they're talking to Bluebeard, and he goes like, oh man, she's dead? Yeah, a year ago she came to me talking about, like, he tells them that, you know, she wanted to marry him, but she would only do so in a year, and she would only marry him if he gave her dowry, like, up front. So, you know, he's like, oh yeah, sure, yeah, whatever. And that, because he's insanely rich. So, you know, like, they go into his apartment, and, like, basically the more, the richer a character is, the more space they have in their apartment. Like, it's all, like, it's all done with, like, magic, so you could have, like, a floor of gigantic apartments, and then a floor of, like, regular apartments, but it's still the same amount of floor space on the outside, because...
Works pretty much how it does in real life.
Yeah, pretty much. But, you know, it's the same amount of rooms, so it's basically something that shouldn't be physically possible. And they do this by...
the portal goes to a bigger space.
They do this by paying the members of the 13th floor to basically, you know, make their apartment bigger. You know, the more money you have, the more you're able to pay a witch, and the bigger she's going to be able to make your room, etc. Anyway, so Bluebeard's insanely rich, so he immediately goes like, yeah, I'll give you a shitload of money up front and not marry you for a year. And then she says, oh, by the way, you can't tell anyone we're getting married. If you tell anyone, the marriage is off. Boom, done. And then he's like, yeah, sure, my word is my word is my honor, and, you know, I won't tell anybody about this, etc., blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So they eventually find out that Rose Red faked her death. And they do this because they find out that the blood used was old, like months old, because Rose Red had been knowingly drawing her own blood and putting into blood packs, which she would keep in the freezer. And then when she had enough to make it look like a fatal amount of blood loss, she opened up all the bags and just all over her apartment.
I love the Agatha Christie style, like, solution to this mystery.
Yeah.
Is because Bigby Wolf is like, you didn't get any blood on the stereo. Because it was one of those things that, like, you didn't notice when you read it, so I was like,
yeah, that was cool.
There was no blood on the stereo. And you're, like, flipping back to the first page and, like, was there? There wasn't.
Yes, and it's because she loved her stereo, so, you know, of course she's not going to get any blood on it. So, it turns out that she was working with Jack Horner to basically scam a bunch of money out of Bluebeard. You know, like, okay, we'll get a bunch of his money, we'll fake your death, and then we'll split, and then we'll, you know, skip town and, you know, start lives somewhere else where we don't have to, you know, bend to the rules of Fabletown. We can just do whatever we want. So, that didn't work out. But it's a really great story, and, like, what I've just described is, like, the bare bones of that story. There's, like, a lot more to it, and there's a lot more characters to meet, and there's even this really awesome sort of, aside from, like, the Agatha Christie, like, no blood on the stereo bit, there's also sort of that, Hercule Poirot sort of, get everybody in one place. It's like, somebody here is a murderer!
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. So, yeah, if you're a fan of, like, those classic detective sort of styles, I think you'll really enjoy the first volume. And then, like, the further you read into the books, you get to meet more characters, you get to see more places that, you know, happen in the Fabletown universe, specifically the farm, which is where all of the non-human fables live. Now, so this is where you have the 3 little pigs, the 3 bears, Goldilocks, because she's got some, like, weird shit going on in her brain. She might have Stockholm Syndrome, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
But you also have basically every animal fable. You have the 3 blind mice, which are just a running gag throughout the entire series because they're trying to find, like, this magical land where the roads are paved with cheese. So they keep just walking wherever they end up walking, and they keep asking each other, are you sure this is the right way? And, you know, their whole logic is that the absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence. So they're like, of course this is the right way. No one has specifically told us that this is the wrong way. And you're just sitting here like, that's not... Yeah.
So I see a couple problems.
It's that trope where an exceedingly stupid character uses their own logic and believes they're smart because of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Although one thing that's like a good advantage of this story or this like series is the fact that to get introduced with a character, we don't need to hear their backstory. We know their backstory. All we need is like, what are you up to right now?
Yes. Although sometimes they do go into backstory, because one thing I really love about Fables is that it kind of twists and perverts the stories of what we thought we knew. Case in point, Snow White and the Seven Dwarves. In Fables, the dwarves were these vicious, like, little captors that basically had Snow White as a slave and sex slave for years. So, yeah, she basically had to escape from that. And, you know, of course that's not, like, how we want to remember, you know, Happy, Doc, Sleepy, Dopey, Grumpy, and Bashful. But, you know, this is a whole other retelling of it, so, you know, maybe just don't cling super hard to what you've heard in other stories, because this is supposed to be regarded as like a standalone sort of thing, where it's like we have the character names and we have the character likenesses. Everything else is free game.
Like, one of the ways that they do that, where they change the backstory, but it works out great, is in Bigby Wolf himself.
Yes, because they have it so that his father is actually the North Wind, which is why he's able to huff and puff and blow someone's house down. Which I'm no zoologist, but I don't think wolves can do that. Normal wolves, anyway.
Well, like, we're not, like, there's nothing between them when they howl in the sky. So maybe if you actually, like, put a piece of paper on a wolf's, like, nose, like, you got close enough.
Next time I hear wolves howling, I'm gonna see if I can see, like, clouds getting blown up.
Yeah.
Anyway, it also, they use that to explain, because the North Wind is this whole, like, huge elemental spirit. Bigby, being his son, is able to shapeshift, so he can just take the form of a wolf. Now, it becomes apparent that the offspring of the North Wind can shapeshift into whatever they want, but Bigby Wolf is just kind of like, wolf is good. I'm good with this. Fuck off, Dad. I'm gonna go do my thing. And so he does. And it's just, yeah, there it is.
Nice.
So, other characters that we have Pinocchio, which I think is really cool. Like, he's friends with Little Boy Blue, who he blows his horn. And yeah, and
Little Boy Blue is my favorite.
Little Boy Blue is an awesome character.
Which, again, because of vanity, it's because he was a trumpet player.
Well, I mean, he's still objectively a good character. And he also hangs out with Flycatcher. Now, these are, like, you know, three older teenage sort of area boys.
Yeah, Flycatcher's like early 20s.
Yeah, Flycatcher's early 20s. I want to say that Little Boy Blue is probably maybe 18 or 19. And Pinocchio, it doesn't matter how old he is, because he's stuck in the body of an 8-year-old. And that's why he's got a total vendetta rage boner for the blue fairy that made him into a real boy. It's like, yeah, she made me into a real boy, except she made me age the same as a puppet. You know how a puppet ages? It doesn't!
I like his character. I just didn't like the design of, like, his, like,
yeah,
look.
He had,
because his head was, like, fairly large.
He did have a large head.
There's reasons for this.
He did have a large head, and his eyes were always, like, super squinty, and, like, he had kind of a weird underbite going on.
Yeah, he looks like Brad Pitt in Cool World.
Yeah, he does.
Like, you cut off that head and put it on, like, a baby's body. That's kind of
pretty much exactly that. So yeah, you got this guy who's got, like, a body of an 8-year-old, but, you know, he's got the mind and temperament of a either late teenager or early 20-something, and nobody wants to get with somebody who looks like they're 8. I mean, some people do, but you don't want to get with them because they're messed up in the head.
Let's get off this topic. Fido, Freaks, Fables.
So
Fairies,
you also have Prince Charming, And Prince Charming
Yes.
is... He's a character that you sort of love, but you mostly hate. Because...
Yeah, he's the character you love to hate, because he's just such a jerk.
Yeah. So, he basically... Okay. He's kind of like white privilege embodied. Because just by being himself, he's able to get whatever he wants. Like, he's able to eat at the best restaurants for free just by charming the shit out of the waitstaff. He's able to sleep with with whoever he wants. And, you know, just because he's able to say the right thing with the right inflection, just because he's super charming. So, just by being who he is, yeah.
One of my favorite moments with him is with him and Beauty from Beauty and the Beast. Do they actually call her Belle? I can't remember. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
I think they call her Belle.
But how it works is when anytime Beauty gets even like slightly mad at Beast, he like starts like going back like fuzzy and like hair.
Yes. So his transformation is directly tied to her feelings for him. So if she's angry, if she's not feeling like particularly in love with him that day, he'll start going more and more beastly. And then once she starts, you know, feeling love for him again, he'll go back into being human. So
yeah. And most of the time that you see them each other, they're bickering at each other like a married couple. And he's like easily like half like hulked out, like 7 feet tall, fuzzy, and like with giant teeth.
Basically someone like halfway through a werewolf transformation, because he's like now 7 feet tall, he's getting hairier, and his teeth are too big for his jaw, so he's in immense pain.
Yeah, but there's a scene where Prince Charming actually tries to like seduce Belle.
Yeah.
And she's like, hold on, I've been married for a very long time, and that's why I'm okay with yelling at my husband. But your powers aren't working here. She goes like more in depth with it, but it's a great part.
Yeah, it's basically like, you know, the whole, you know, a marriage isn't perfect, but like, no, fuck you, I'm not gonna like cheat on my husband just because you're being all like, oh, how about my dick? That's a very simplified summation of his efforts.
Yes. So we're actually running low on time. We're at almost an hour right now.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah. Any last things you want to say about Fables?
Just one thing, and that is regarding the ABC show adaptation of this comic series. Now, at first, ABC approached Bill Willingham because they were like, hey, your comic's great. We want to make a TV series out of it. Now, normally people hear these words and they're like, fuck yes! But Bill Willingham knows that ABC is run by Disney, and he's like, no. I did this exactly how I wanted to do it. I made no compromises, and if I give the rights to you guys, you're gonna rub your big fat Disney dick all over it. So ABC was like, all right, we'll make our own fairy tale universe show with blackjack and hookers. In fact, forget the show and the blackjack. Screw the whole thing. And so they made Once Upon a Time, which is set in the magical town of Storybrooke. Fuck you, ABC! Fuck you and your lack of effort!
So, the girl who plays Snow White in that show?
Yeah.
Played the voice of Judy Hopps in Zootopia.
Yes, she did. And
just to bring it back to rabbits and bring this thing full circle.
Yes. So, yeah, that's basically Fables for you. The series is 22 graphic novels long, but it has a definitive end. So there's no, like, you know, you don't have to worry about it going on forever and ever like some books do. Because, man, that's just like reader blue balls right there when you're just like trying to... You want something to wrap up, but it won't.
I wonder if, 22 volumes, if you put it at $20 a piece, then it ends up being like $440. But what is that if you only have it at $15 a piece?
15 times 22...
That'd be about $330 to get the whole series. So buy volume 1, it's great. If you like that, buy volume 2, and then go on from there, because that is an expensive habit. It's like trying to collect all Walking Dead.
Kind of, yeah. But if by chance you live somewhere with like a place, if you live near a place that sells like pre-owned or used books, try and see if you can find Fables there. I'm lucky enough to live somewhere that has a book off, so I was able to get most of the graphic novels there. But yeah, nice. It's expensive. Like, you're not gonna wanna. I mean, you're gonna wanna run through this as quick as you can because the stories are really interesting. I remember fucking up my own sleep schedule because I kept reading just one after another after another. I was like, I can't fucking sleep after that. I gotta where's number 16? And that.
All right. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Right. So let's do our wrap up. Bart, what's your favorite thing about
Feel the Magic?
All right, so what's your favorite thing about Feel the Magic?
See, if I say it like that, then you remember it. My favorite thing is the all the mini games, because they're all like different weird control cycles. Sometimes you have to blow in the microphone. Sometimes you have to yell in the microphone. Sometimes you have to like rub things in a certain direction. Sometimes you're trying to like tap for your life. And like, have you ever done that thing where you like seize out your arm for a second, and so you're tapping like super fast, but you can't maintain it?
Yeah, I've done that.
And then like your arm starts to like seize up, and so you're like, I love it. It's great.
Nice. So what's your least favorite thing about it?
I hate how like sometimes it just looks bad. Sometimes it looks real bad. Like there's a game where there's a guy who has a goldfish in his stomach, and you're trying to like rub them out of his neck, but the guts look all like yeah.
It's weird.
When it looks good, it looks beautiful. When it looks bad, it just looks kind of dumb.
Yeah. All right. So who do you think Feel the Magic would be a good fit for?
Really anybody that likes old video games. Like it's a game that, because of how simple the visual style is, it's held up really well.
Nice.
Because all the characters are in silhouette, so you don't have that weird like Max Payne like Saran wrap face.
Oh, right on.
It's good. All right. So that's pretty much it for me for Fables. Why do you love Fables?
I love Fables because of just showing all of these characters that have never before been in the same setting now having to interact with each other. It's really interesting to see. So, like, otherwise, we would never know if, someone like Captain Hook would get along with Mowgli from the Jungle Book.
It's kind of interesting. What do you hate about Fables?
It's hard to think of anything I particularly hate about it. Although, sometimes their side stories can, like, go on a little bit longer than, you would prefer. You kind of want to be like, okay, I don't really care too much about the fate of this, background character. I mean, like, the story's good, but you really want to get back to the main story, and you're just like, you're just going to go on for the rest of the graphic novel, aren't you? And they
it's one of those situations where you're like, why are we talking about Wesley's science project when the Enterprise is crumbling in on itself? Basically,
yeah. So sometimes they can get a little frustrating, but it's actually kind of tragic because the story is always good. It's just not the story you want at the moment. Yeah. So that's kind of like, it feels like you're not appreciating something as much as it should be appreciated because it's not what you want.
Nice. And whose Fables a good fit for?
Well, I mean, it's got really great writing, really great art, and it's really like it's a wonderful like whole idea. So I would say if you like reading comic books, give Fables a try. And if you think that Once Upon a Time is the greatest TV show of all time, then read Fables and let your world implode a little bit.
I really like it. It is like Once Upon a Time is like PG-13, like probably PG. Fables is not.
Yeah, Fables is a hard R.
Yeah. And like it's that like there was this era of like comic books wanting to be like as gritty and hardcore as possible. Like we're gonna like swear a lot, and we're gonna like be like cop shows. We're gonna like show butts and like, yeah. And so Sandman does that. This comic does that, and Lucifer, which was a Sandman like side thing.
Yeah, Sandman spinoff.
That also did. Yeah, that also did.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that wraps us up for this week. Do you got anything else to say, Pete?
Not much else. Next week we're gonna do G. What are you gonna do for G, Bart?
Oh, I'm doing The Godfather. I've been playing this for a while.
Nice. I'm gonna be doing Goodfellas.
Yeah, Mobster Week.
Mobster Week. Mobster. Oh,
Mobster Fest.
Mobster Fest. Yes.
Mobster Fest. So yeah, that's it. Thanks for listening, everybody. All right. Bye, Sponch.
Yeah, and also special thanks to OK Go for their use of their song Here It Goes Again off their album Oh No. Thanks for listening, everybody. See you next week. Bye, Sponch!
Bye, Sponch.